On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
Rob Rokicki, composer and lyricist of The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical, and Kristin Stokes and Sarah Beth Pfeifer, who are in the cast, are here too. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. You may know me as BroadwayGirlNYC. That's my online social media alter ego. And today I'm going full Broadway girl, full on musical theater fangirl, because I have the stars and composer of this incredibly fun and clever new musical in studio today. They are on tour, so check the website to see where they can find where you can find them. This is going to be especially fun because Rob and I have been friends for a couple of years, and I've just met Sarah Beth and Kristin for the first time today. So there's going to be a lot to dish about between friends, and also you'll get to overhear us getting to know each other. I can also only imagine the stories they have about each other. So maybe I'll put you guys on the spot and we'll gossip a little bit. Kristin and Sarah Beth are, as I said, in town with The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical tour, which just finished a really celebrated run at the Beacon Theater. Not only were lines around the block to get in, lines were around the block to meet the cast after the show. I was there on opening night. And they also are going to be appearing on stage with Rob Rokicki and the Good Kids in concert. It's called Face Your Fears, and that's happening April 3rd at the Green Room 42 here in Manhattan. So there's a lot going on. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
How's everybody feeling after last night? It was a big night at the Beacon.
Oh my gosh. Honestly, let's get honest immediately. I'm so emotional this morning.
Yeah.
I was so emotional. I was like having all these crazy dreams last night where I think my body was like allowing me to just like cry from how amazing the experience was. And it was just like, I don't know, we're still in the middle of tour, but this was kind of like the penultimate of tour of like, we get to come back to New York to the Beacon. And like, it was just everything and more that I could have dreamed of. It was so amazing. And so I'm feeling emotional and I'm grateful and I'm just happy to be back in NYC.
I so wish I had a clip of Whitney Houston
I
going,
know.
Right.
so emotional, baby.
There
I
it is.
almost
Now we don't
expected
need
you
it. I know.
to chime in. How are you feeling, Sarah Beth?
I mean, awesome. It's the Beacon is a 2,800 seat house.
Bigger than any Broadway theater.
Bigger than any Broadway theater, and we like nearly sold out all of our shows. And so, I mean, yeah, that's the kind of like rock star experience. And I mean, if you have listened to the cast album of Lightning Thief, it rocks pretty hard.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, to have like 25-ish hundred screaming, fans of the books and the musical who are just so excited to see like their favorite characters up there on stage. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Are we going to top it like ever?
I don't know. That's why I'm crying.
Yeah, I know.
And you guys have been involved in this show for a long time. Rob,
Yeah.
it's 6 years in the making to get
my
to
God.
that last night.
Yeah.
In
Since 2013, I think that was our first.
Well, I don't know. I think
That's when I put my first demo together. I think.
We did that first 2-week workshop. I believe it was like beginning of December 2013.
Yeah, which Stokes was a part of.
Yeah, so you've been Annabeth for
Ever.
ever.
There's a line in the show. Stokes and I I've been involved since one of the very early workshops, and our 5-year friend anniversary popped up on Facebook, and that's where we met.
Yeah.
And there's a line in the show where she sings 5 long years stuck at camp, and I was like, it's real life.
It's our real 5 long years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
happy.
there are also
not
a
stuck.
couple of
Yeah, definitely not
dates
stuck.
in the show. Like there's the Lotus Hotel. She goes, we checked in yesterday. Was it May? Is it?
Oh yeah,
May
May
1st.
1st.
May 1st. So when you guys perform on May 1st, I
yeah.
think
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
get a big
I
cheer. And there was one other date, I think, I can't remember what it was, but
There's so
I
many.
expect the fandom to come out in force to like celebrate those dates.
Yeah.
For
They know
sure.
all the
Let's make that
references.
happen.
They're so specific.
I actually am going to need somebody to catalog those for me because I have a hashtag I use on my Broadway Girl Twitter that's hashtag BWay calendar. So basically every
love
date that's
that.
referenced
that's
in a
fun.
musical, especially the fictional ones.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like,
Totally.
like
December 24th.
That's the ones from Rent are those ones I have to like pre-schedule because I never know where I'm actually going to be
Uh-huh.
to live tweet it on December 24th at 9 p.m. But then like, there's the one in Hair where she's like, talking about meeting the guy at the Waverly.
Yeah.
December 12th, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there are so
September
many
12th.
of them. So hashtag BWay calendar. By the way, if you're listening live, you can call in and ask questions of these guys. Tell them how great they are. 844-TALK-DNR is the number, 844-825-5367. And we'll just be chatting for the next hour or so. By the way, if you're listening on the free version, which isn't available for another week after the live version, consider subscribing, because the only way to call in and participate in the show is through the subscription. It costs less than a venti caramel macchiato latte. For $6.95 a month, you get 8 episodes a month of my show at least, plus you get 10 other shows on the DNR platform. It's over 100 hours a month of content, and it's really fantastic stuff. So 844-TALK-DNR if you're listening live, and if you're not, subscribe at dnrstudios.com/Laura so you can chime in to the next live episode. Let's talk more Lightning Thief. The kids can't get enough. And by kids, I mean people from ages 10 to like 110.
Yeah.
I've never seen such an age-diverse audience in my life as I
it's
did
pretty
at the
amazing.
Beacon. And gender mixed, too. I mean, I saw like a whole bunch of this demographic that I so rarely see at the theater, which is like 13-year-old boys.
Yeah, that's something that's been really special. And to have a character that is like Annabeth, who's smart and a leader, and Percy has to learn how to kind of respect her and understand her and where she comes from. To have a whole audience of 13-year-old boys get to hear that story, I think is really great and important for where we're at right now.
They
But
clearly love each other, but it's not like it's a boy gets girl.
no, boy has to learn how to understand girl on her terms, because she's really badass and much cooler than she is.
Yeah. Actually, we should back up a little bit, because it's possible that not everyone who is listening right now is as obsessed with
Yes.
the
This is true.
musical as I am. Can you each talk about the role you play and the character arc? I'm assuming since it's based on a book, we don't really have to worry about spoilers. How do you guys feel about that?
Oh my gosh, I'm like an anti-spoiler girl. Like, I'm like, what? That book came out 20 years ago, but that's a spoiler. So I'm just like weird. But
Bruce
we
Willis
can
was
talk-
dead the whole time.
You're the worst. I think we can give some stuff away. We can at least give away the stuff in the first book.
Yeah.
I think we can give a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff away. But just so people know, the Percy Jackson book series is about a young boy who discovers that his dad is Poseidon, and that Greek gods are real, and that Greek myths have been around, and that they're actually all around and a part of us. And so
I believe the line goes, the gods are real, the gods have kids, and the kids have issues.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need to
God.
know.
And that's like the summary of the show.
Basically,
Exactly.
yeah.
There
No,
it is.
that's what I love about it too. Is it's just very much about parents and kids, and trying to understand your parents, and trying to understand that they're fallible and not perfect.
And also the idea of feeling like an outsider when you are in that sort of tween and early teen
Absolutely.
age. You're like, I feel like I don't belong. Why? And finding out that you are of mixed blood, part God, part human, as a half-blood, which is the name of the camp that the
Right.
kids all gather at. I can imagine that being, and I saw it in action, really attractive to kids and teens and adults like me who like I'm in my late 30s and I still am like, why don't I really belong? I'm so weird. Oh, maybe I do. Maybe I am from another world. That would just make it, it's a fantasy that I think anyone who's ever felt othered can embrace.
Totally.
So Rob, you were asked by a friend, was it Joe Trace, who suggested you?
Well, so it was a random thing. Yeah, I think Barbara Pasternak had gotten the rights and wanted to do a play, and Joe Trace had seen that somebody was that they were looking for writers, and Joe Trace is obsessed with the Percy Jackson books.
For those who don't know Joe, he is the book writer on The Lightning Thief and also the book writer on Be More Chill.
Yes.
And the head showrunner
perhaps
on
you've-
Lemony Snicket on Netflix too.
Yeah. I
He's
didn't
like
even
doing all
know
But
kinds
he's
of
the
stuff.
showrunner?
Yeah, he's like
What?
yeah, season 3.
I thought he was just like,
Yeah,
oh
writer.
my god.
Yeah.
Or head writer.
Head
yeah.
writer. So like Joe understands that world. He understands YA. He understands why it taps into something deep into all of us. No matter how old we are, we always feel like that adolescent that doesn't fit in, and especially the kind of like how dark some of those things are in that world, and that we can deal with some of that. So he was asked to write a play version of it, basically, which he adapted, and it's a beautiful play. But then TheaterWorks was like, we want it to rock. We want to make a rock musical. And so what if we asked like another rock composer? So I think they were looking at other people, and I think they had just said, oh, what about Joe Iconis, because he's working on Be More Chill with Joe. This was before... this was at Two River, and Iconis was like, "No, you should use Rob. Rob's the guy." So
Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Because he's a Rob Kiki.
Oh my God.
Has anyone said that to you, Rob? Is this the first time that's been said in the
Rob
history of the world?
It might
that
be.
You rock Kiki.
That's very sweet.
I mean, yeah. What are your fans called?
I don't want to know.
Rokicki kickers.
No, I don't know.
Rokicki kids.
The Rokicki kids? That's
Rokicki
weird.
kids?
The Rokeeks.
Too much?
The Keeks.
The Keeks.
The Keeks.
Okay, we're workshopping right
We'll
now.
figure it out.
If
We'll
you
take it out
have,
of town.
844-TALK-DNR,
Figure it out.
844-825-5367.
I also, there was a bunch of people that were submitted to write this show too. So but I don't know who they all were.
He's the winner.
But I
of
want.
the
Well,
world.
it's just like I think whatever my aesthetic was fit the best with Joe Trace's like book. And it was weird. The first song that I adapted was the first scene that Joe adapted, which was the scene on the beach between Percy and his mom.
Which is such a beautiful
And
moment.
I
the
made
best.
the song Strong, and that is the only song that has really not changed at all in all the versions of this whole thing that has stayed the same, because we were like, that's really an important moment.
Yep.
So
Grounds the whole thing.
Speaking of moments that have been taken out of the show, we actually have a cut track
Yeah.
that we're going to hear. I realized, though, before we do that, I didn't actually give you each a chance to talk about your character and your character arc.
You should
It's
talk
so
about that.
exciting. Like we can just spitball all day. Like this
That's
is
the whole
world.
point of Laura Heywood interviews. Like, I've worked on a lot of shows over the last 20 years, and there's almost always an agenda, a schedule, and an idea of somebody else kind of ultimately having creative control over the structure and sometimes even the subject matter. And here, I put my name on it, front and center, like not my social media alter ego, not anybody else. It's Laura Heywood interviews. I get to sit around and talk to whoever I want in whatever direction we go. So really, we have the ultimate freedom. It's not even a censored platform. So
All about Brexit all the time. That's all we're talking about.
Hold on, not censored. Watch out.
What's up?
we should probably keep
Sort of on
I mean, we
topic.
know who the Lightning Thief
PG-13,
audience,
sure,
and
sure,
we
sure.
don't want to drive anybody away by
sure.
getting
No.
too graphic.
Never.
But
All right,
I would
but
never.
you know,
fine.
if a little slip of the tongue happens, we don't have to panic.
Right.
Like Rob said, kick ass already. So
Rob wrote kick ass.
We do. Oh,
There
that's
we
it.
go.
Robert
Yeah.
Kick-Ass.
Put
I love
that on the
that.
list.
That's
Put that
it.
on the list.
That's on the list.
I'm surprised. That's probably somebody's social media handle already, a fan account.
oh my gosh, if it's not, make it.
Awesome. It's my mom's. We talk about your characters. No, we don't.
Okay, so I'm Kristin Stokes. I play Annabeth Chase, which Percy meets her at Camp Half-Blood. She is the daughter of Athena. That's her godly parent.
Goddess of wisdom.
Goddess of wisdom, of battle strategy, also the arts, also weaving. Did you know that?
Looking at me.
That's why her and
I'm
Arachne
sorry I
were
didn't
like
write
in
your
this battle. Anyways,
weaving song.
and like
Rob
you know,
warned me that you know every single detail about Annabeth,
She
like
is
in the
our-
canon.
She knows every single detail about like
Listen.
most of the books. She's our kind of de facto like
Wikipedia.
expert.
You know, it's funny. I think every cast like this well, I know I interviewed the 7 original principals in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child,
What? So
and
cool.
they like all together on one panel in front of 1,000 people at Comic-Con. I did not have a heart attack at all.
Oh my God.
And like half of the cast knows nothing about the books, and they're like they know just the part they memorized, and they
Yep.
were so open about it, and the audience was like, "Boo, hiss!" Like,
Oh,
but then there
no.
were a couple people.
It's like chapter 13, page 4.
Who they knew just like every single detail, and the others were like, "That's why we didn't have to worry about it." 'Cause
Right, 'cause
anytime
we
we had
had
a
this
question,
person. Yeah.
we just had
Of
it was like having Alexa on set,
Exactly.
just be like,
Yep.
"Kristen,
Yeah.
what did Clarice do?" And when she was blah blah blah.
Totally.
Speaking of Clarice, that's your character,
Yes.
Sarah Beth.
Yep. Well, I mean, I play 9 different characters in
Yeah,
the
Clarice
show.
and others.
Yes, I arguably may spend more time off stage changing my costume than I do on stage.
How many costume changes do you have?
18 in 2 hours.
I feel like just that's a workout.
It is, yeah. And I mean, we, in each new theater we go to, you have a local dresser that has to learn the track all over again. So it can be a learning curve for some of them.
Like, this is what I wear for the squirrel. This is what I wear when I'm the news reporter. This is what I wear.
But anyway, yes, I would say, I guess my main character is Clarice. She's the daughter of Ares, the god of war. And, the whole show is kind of about like, so Percy ends up going to Camp Half-Blood where, all of these demigods go to train. And like one of the first things that happens to him there is there's this really intense game of capture the flag that involves a lot of sword fighting, and other violence that he was not anticipating. And so it's like there's this like big sort of conflict at camp, and Clarice is sort of the bully there. But then
she is half god of war.
She is. I mean, she can't help herself. But then it's like Percy and Annabeth and their friend Grover go out into the world and fight all these monsters and sort of figure out that like, the little grudges that you would hold against each other at camp, like Clarice being the bully at camp, that doesn't really matter when you are broadening your perspective and looking at everything that has to be done, out in the real world. Mm-hmm. And so by the end, they've won Clarice over to their team, and she's going to go out and fight with them for like what they believe in, to happen in the world. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have, as a nod to my love for all things theater, I have a little segment on the show that I call Yes and.
Yes and. Yes and. Yes and.
So you're Clarice and you're others, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to dig in a little bit to the costume change element. You play a squirrel. You play a girl who's lost in time at the Lotus Hotel. Who else do you play?
Dolphin. I play a dolphin. I play a weather reporter that we've affectionately named Gale Force.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
I play Katie Gardner, the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of grain and the harvest. I play who else do I play?
Sweaty Camper.
I play yes, another unnamed character that we've named Sweaty Camper.
Who gets
There's
yelled
always
at,
that
just
one
yelled at the whole
sweaty camper.
Well, it was actually, I think she was named Sweaty Camper because I used to come on as her after Put You in Your Place. So I was
just
sweaty.
drenched.
And now it happens before that, but the name has stuck.
Yeah.
And I play Mrs. Dodds, the substitute teacher that turns into, spoiler alert, a fury that tries to eat
We've
Percy.
never had a teacher named Mrs. Dodds.
Oh, you mean that? A
I'm a
fury,
fan.
like
I'm
demon
a
monster.
legit fan.
You're like
you
a
guys.
quotable
Yeah,
fan.
you know.
I'm so impressed.
I briefly play Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
Oh yeah, in the underworld.
In the underworld.
Vienna Voice Choir.
Oh, yeah.
Puppeteer.
Yep.
Yeah, the use of puppets, I totally like. The
Yeah.
attention to detail in this production is so incredible. Like the costumes on all the monsters. I think my favorite one is the DJ in the underworld.
DJ Cerberus.
He's amazing.
He's quick, but he's like,
Yeah,
it's a deep
blinking,
cut,
you'll
and if you
miss
get
him.
it, you win.
So,
Yeah.
Kristen, your yes and I'm going to play the sound effect again.
Yes and. Yes and. Yes and. Yes and. Yes and. Yes and. Yes and.
You're an actor in the show, and you're the dance captain.
Yes, and
Are you also in charge of all that combat? Because there's a lot of dancey, sword fighty kind of stuff going on.
yeah, there's definitely a cross section. When we were at the Lortel, I was in charge of both. I was dance captain and fight captain. But this time they were like, that's a lot. Let's divide it up. So actually, James Hayden Rodriguez, who plays Luke, is the fight captain, which is great because, he's in all the fights. And so he's like, okay, I'll just know them anyway.
I would be interested. I feel like we might be like a pioneering, has anyone ever set that much stage combat to music
Yeah.
before?
It was a
Like,
learning curve for our fight choreographer.
Yeah, I
There's
think
like West Side Story, there's some hand-to-hand
Totally.
stuff
Yeah,
going
totally.
on.
but not
like,
full battles with
Yeah.
swords and axes.
right, that has to happen.
Percussion.
As we were making it, it was definitely like a learning curve for everybody where you need to the sword hits are happening on these exact beats in the music, and still keeping it safe.
We should call Jen Tepper, our friend who's a Broadway historian,
She'll
and
know.
find out.
Yeah.
She'll
Shogun
know
or
exactly.
something.
Totally.
She'll be like,
Totally.
well, you have 185 sword swipes set to music, and,
Right, and
she'll
this
find something
production
that
and-
never got a cast recording, but she'll
That
just
knows.
know.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's definitely
yeah.
a cross section between the fighting and the dancing, and especially when we were learning the fights and kind of going back to what we had created before, trying to keep it safe. It's fights aren't usually done to music, and so it was definitely like a team effort between me, James, and Rod, our fight
Rod
choreographer,
Kinter, yeah.
trying to, how do we make this safe? But also I was like, count captain. I was like, okay, but it has to be done in this 8 count because that's the end of the
On the
music.
wow.
Yeah.
Like just kind of,
And there's
it's
like
like almost
screaming
like
rock
doing the
music
math.
on over it to like figure that out.
Yep.
I just love that like Joe Trace and I would just give stage directions in the script to our director Stephen Brackett and be like, have fun, good luck.
We don't know how you're gonna do that.
So I think in that one it was like they have an insane fight, like Stomp meets Enter the Dragon, have fun. And it's the same thing as like when we have Mr. Brunner, Percy's teacher, who's like in a wheelchair, and then he reveals that he's a body of a centaur, and he's like, he gets out of the wheelchair and reveals that his back half is a horse. Have fun, director.
Yeah.
We just like leave little things like that. Be like, if I was a director looking at that stuff the first time, I would lose my mind. I wouldn't know the first thing.
Rude.
But
Isn't
he
it
made
nice
it work
to,
so.
like get to be the imagination without actually having to execute
No,
it?
yes, no, it is. It's absolutely, yeah, because Stephen is so inventive and smart in the way to do it. It's in a way that you see the seams and you still go there 100%.
Yep.
Rob, do you know I have a yes and for you?
Oh,
too?
God, what?
How about the sound effect again first?
Do it. I
do
want
it.
it.
Yes, and. Yes, and. Yes, and. Yes, and. Yes, and. Yes, and. Yes, and.
I actually have 2 yes ands for you. It's a yes and. The first is that you're known as a composer and lyricist, but you're also an actor.
Yes.
I understand that you once got cast in a Broadway show that didn't make it to
Oh,
Broadway.
God, yes.
It was a hard
and
week.
it was a hard week for me. It was a very weird week for me because I had a show that I love called Strange Tales that was all about animals, true stories of animal heroism that was going to try to have a regional production. And in 1 week, that show was like, it was going to have a regional production. I was so excited. I had booked this show on Broadway as an actor.
Which was what?
It was called Pump Boys and Dinettes that John Doyle was
I
directing.
love that show.
It's one of my favorite shows.
I grew up listening to it on an
It's the
LP with my
best.
parents,
Oh,
and we'd
Cass
be
Morgan.
like,
it's
"Serve
like an incredible.
yourself."
The cast is amazing.
Yeah.
And that honky tonk music, and I learned how to play accordion, which I for like 3 months.
Did you also learn to play the tuba?
No, not the tuba.
Oh, okay.
But like
You play all kinds of
I
instruments.
do
You play
play
the
a lot
melodica.
Yeah, I play a lot of random stuff. So I learned that. So I was like, it was a Friday, and we got a notice like, hey, I think the rehearsal's going to get extended, so we're not going to have rehearsal Monday. It was like, okay. I'd gotten we had our costumes measured. We had they had the set built mostly. We were going to play the Circle and Square. And then they were like on Monday morning, they were like, oh, it's gotten extended again. We're delayed again. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like calling my agent, what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, it's not happening, or it's delayed until October, like indefinitely. And then I got a call. We went out to celebrate with my producers, Strange Tales happening. And then they were like, oh yeah, we're going. One of them was like, I'm going to grad school. We're dropping the show. I'm so sorry. It's the best thing for the show. But I had gotten engaged that week too. And my
Wow.
mom had this health scare with her heart. So it was this whole thing where it's in 1 week I was gonna be on Broadway and my show's gonna have a regional production and I'm getting married. And then the next week it was well, I'm getting married still.
Well,
But the moral of the story was that yes, and it was the hardest week for me, but then Lightning Thief soon after fell into my lap. So
Right.
I think I had such a bad taste in my mouth thinking as my identity of I am a performer and as well, and this is going to happen, and I just kind of put my writing hat on, and it was I need to just focus on things I have control over and telling stories like that I can. So it was really beautiful that this incredible story fell in my lap, and I could focus all that energy that I had.
All that angsty energy.
Into,
What better place than the Lightning Thief?
Right, and that's what I did.
I do not make it a habit to bring up negative stories about people, but I do make it a habit of finding a way to talk about the fact that sometimes the worst things that ever happened to us turn into the best things that ever happened to us.
Kinda,
Like
yeah.
that with on a long enough timeline, a tragedy can turn into a success story. And if you'd been doing Pump Boys and Dinettes on Broadway, you would not have had the time to
Probably
put
not,
into
no.
that demo that got you the gig for the Lightning Thief. None of us would be here right now. I mean,
Totes.
who
Yeah.
knows if the show, if it had even moved forward, if it had been with someone else's music, I can't even imagine a world where that's the case.
Laura, you just gave me closure. That's what I needed right now. You really did. It's been it is this kind of little thing that has chipped away at me, but I am so grateful, yes, that it all
You're like
happened.
Percy who just lost his mom, but like now you're at the end where you're like, bring on the real world. You're doing the key change. You're like, I'm in it.
You guys want to take a phone call?
Yeah.
We're not even going to screen it. We're just going to go. We're just going to go live.
Danger zone.
See if I can. Let's see if I can figure out how to turn on the phones. Yes. Hello, caller.
Hello. This is Kevin from Connecticut.
Kevin, how are you? Thank you for calling.
Doing well. Just a quick question. What was it like transferring from off-Broadway to these much larger houses like the Beacon Theater?
Great question, Kevin.
Great question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so for reference, the Lortel had 200 seats, I think. And then, we just played the 2,800 seat Beacon. So it's a bit of a scale up. I think someone calculated that we probably played to more audience members in the 5 shows that we just did at the Beacon than we did the entire month-and-a-half run at the Lortel.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That's pretty crazy.
So we did, So our director and designers did a lot of work to scale up the show, although not as much work as you might think. We got some new puppets. We amped up the lighting.
David's lighting's beautiful.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's crazy. But then also they worked really hard to keep the spirit of that sort of like seeing the seams, the sort of truly theatrical, imagination sort of generated magic, if you will, without going full CGI. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really did transfer well, and I can say that having seen the show in both venues, there is still an intimacy about it, and I felt like I was like hanging at Camp Half-Blood. That's not great. Like I was sitting a football field away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with only 7 actors, and I think it's a testament to how strong they are, and that we trust the material enough that it would handle it. Because I was nervous about it, but the producers believed in it. We have a great team helping us. We have a great production team and design team, but it is, a sound team, especially to make it still feel visceral in a rock show, even in a venue that big. We don't want to lose that, what Sarah Beth was talking about. The artistic director at Chicago Shakes, Rick, is this wonderful man, described it as rough magic, and I love that. That you see the seams, you know that it's being made in front of you, and you still 100% invest in it, and I love that. It still feels like it's like our thing. And the audience takes ownership of it too, and that's really special. Rather than like, we're too cool for school, and this is like there's a distancing between it. No, we want to invite people in to be a part of the world.
Kevin, I hope you have a chance to see the show in one of the venues that is coming up. Starting in April, it's going to be in Durham, North Carolina, followed by New Orleans, Sacramento, Seattle, all the way around the West Coast, and then into Wyoming and Texas, and back to North Carolina, Georgia, Rochester, New York. I mean, the show's going to be all over the place, touring through the end of July. And there's so many locations on this tour list that are worth it to just make a trip to anyway. Like, I've never been to Dallas. I'd like to go to Dallas. And if I can go have a little, weekend trip out there and also catch The Lightning Thief, you can find all the dates and info at lightningthiefmusical.com. And you also can pick up the original cast recording. Now, one thing Rob and I know very well is that you do not call it a soundtrack. Now, Sarah Beth and Kristin, I don't know if you know this. This is another yes and. Rob and I collaborated on a public service announcement with the website Yes Broadway. And Rob's part is mostly visual, so I encourage you to search PSA Yes Broadway on YouTube. Silly. But I do have the audio here. Do not call it a soundtrack, y'all.
Oh my God.
Oh, hey, Laura.
Hey, Sam.
What are you listening to?
Come From Away.
I love that soundtrack.
Soundtrack?
Hi, I'm Laura Heywood, BroadwayGirlNYC, and I'm here to address a very important issue in our community. This is Rob Rokicki, composer of The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical, and he should be so happy right now because the Percy Jackson original cast recording is about to be released. Unfortunately, fans everywhere keep accidentally calling it a soundtrack instead of an original cast recording.
It's not a soundtrack. Soundtrack is for film. I write musicals. I don't know the difference. It's just not fair.
Please, help us solve this crisis. Call call the number on your screen and pledge not to be one of those musical theater fans who hasn't grasped the difference between a soundtrack and original cast recording. Composers like Rob all over the world are counting on you to do your part. Somewhere, there is a theater writer who needs you. Call this number. Take the pledge. You won't regret it. They need you.
That number again is 844-TALK-DNR, 844-825-5367. Rob, that was the day we met.
Right, and I had to put my head on your lap and just sob.
It has the same vibe as those Sarah McLachlan.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. You freaking nailed that Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah, with Rob being the poor puppy dog on my lap. With you, if he hasn't pulled out his puppy dog eyes with the quivering lower lip, he's doing it right now. We're going to put that, I'm going to tweet it at BroadwayGirlNYC in a little bit. How do you guys feel about singing?
Let's do it.
Did you blow your voices out last night with all that?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
No.
What I always say about the show is it's crazy to get it into your body. The rehearsal process always feels like an insane, crazy draining, oh my God, how are we going to do this 8 shows a week? And then it's incredible how it truly does become a sort of neutral when you're actually in the run of it. You know?
Yeah, but then I can imagine the next morning you're no more singing for
ready to go. It's just kind of always slightly warm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Chris McCarroll described it as it's terrifying, and you just jump off the cliff, and you're like, okay, we're gonna do it. Nobody talk about it, how freaky it is.
Talk about
we just do it. We just do it.
Well, another one of the signature elements of Laura Heywood interviews is that we're all on an adventure together.
Yes.
We're trying a bunch of new things. If you have any issues, any questions, we can just deal with them and let people behind the curtain a little bit.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So, Rob, this is a song called Take the Weight. It is not on the soundtrack, just kidding, original cast recording of The Lightning Thief, but it was written for The Lightning Thief.
It was. Am I on this one or on this one? I never know which microphone.
Talk into the one that's next to your mouth and play the guitar into the one that's next to your guitar.
I don't do a lot of radio. I stay in my room and try to write songs for my cat. So over the course of writing the show from the 1-act to the 2-act version, we cut over 27 songs for the show. It's nuts. Our musical moments or things. Not all those were songs, but some of those were little musical motifs. And for whatever reason, my favorite song in the show, called My Grand Plan, which is Annabeth's big song in Act 2, what was cut. Everybody was like, it's not working. We don't know how to make it work.
The patriarchy at work.
The patriarchy at work.
was like, listen, we don't need this girl's POV.
Right.
Back to Percy.
And
that sounds just like Rob Rokicki and Joe Trace.
No, we wanted
kidding.
a moment for them, but
Of
it was
course.
very hard too, because Joe's in the middle of working on Netflix doing Lemony Snicket.
Right.
So he'd be in town for we got the campfire song we wrote overnight. He stayed over at my apartment, and we just all night. He was texting me on the couch, and then we were just going. Amanda's just go into the piano room and write the song. We wrote it overnight.
It has that vibe. Now I didn't know why it felt so, I don't know, late night campfire. Let's just make up some shit.
Yeah, it was really
and that's
fun.
really what you were doing.
Off the cuff.
Very method.
So one of those moments too is I had kind of given carte blanche to write a song for Annabeth kind of on our own, and so it felt a little more generic. I wouldn't say generic. I would say less specific, because to me it felt very specific in where I wanted it in the show, but it didn't quite lock in that place. So we used it as a training montage in the first version of the show, and that sort of made sense. And now I think we have kind of relaxed into knowing where it fits into the whole world of the show, and it definitely feels like, oh my gosh, how could it not have fit? Because it always seems like such a part of it.
Yeah. Now, right now, you're talking about My Grand Plan,
My Grand Plan,
which is still in the show.
Which is in the show,
Yeah,
and she sings the
Yeah.
piss out of it. No, I literally, it's my favorite song in the show. I can't tell you, I've cried more times listening to her sing that song than anything else. So I wrote this other song just because I was like, fine, I'll write another song, and it'll be just about how hard it is to deal with the pressures of everything that you're faced with. And I was kind of putting all that angst into feeling the pressures of finding a song that'll fit for this character in this moment.
That's its own weight.
That's its own weight. So I wrote this song called Take the Weight, and it's kind of an homage to a later book where Annabeth in the book series has to actually gets kind of tricked to carry the Atlas's, like the world on her shoulders.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Takes the place of Atlas.
Right, she takes the place of Atlas. So it's a kind of amazing metaphor of book 3, yes.
So this could theoretically
be in a later musical.
In the sequel musical. I mean, look, we have
yeah.
3 high school musicals. We can have 3 Lightning
Oh my
Thief
God.
musicals.
I'm ready for the
Three
musical
Percy Jackson
universe.
musicals.
I'm ready for the musical universe. There's like the comic book universe movies that have taken over.
There's never been a universe of musicals. Like
let's
you know what I mean? Like you do like a Tom
We'll
Stoppard,
take up
Coast
all
of
of New World
Utopia,
stages.
5 nights. You all go see
You go to every
all
book.
of Heroes of
Okay,
Olympus.
wait. Just let's take a pause on Take the Weight for a second because
Yep.
I want to know like which other musicals do you want to be in this universe? I've spent a lot of time thinking about Mean Girls and Be More Chill in the same universe. Like I'm convinced that Regina
like
George
other
has a
musicals.
script.
And then
could
Avi,
be-
like Clueless, would be there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah,
And
don't you? I
maybe
mean, don't you
Heather's,
think that all those
like-
girls have squips?
Yes.
I don't know how
Right.
familiar you are with Be More Chill, but
Oh, yeah.
I definitely
Very.
think Regina
Very.
George has a squip.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
For
like,
sure.
can you? What if Camp Half-Blood was like,
The
you know, in the same world as Be More Chill, and the gods invented the squip as a sort of remote, like artificial
Crossover musical. Joe
I know,
Trace can
that'd
make
be
that
Kronos.
happen.
I bet.
Kronos has invented.
We
the
have a
squib.
couple little nods, loving nods to Be More Chill in the show that only deep dives you could figure out what those might be.
Hang on a second.
And not just Be More
I
Chill,
wish
but
I
like
had a
other
record
shows
scratch
that I
sound
love.
effect.
There you go.
And other shows that I love that Iconis
You
like,
can't
has.
tease me with that.
Well, I'll give like one little tiny one. So in DOA, Charon sings "I Got a Sweet Ride," and that's a loving nod to the sweet ride that's going to be in the upcoming Broadway Bounty Hunter. That's like a line that is said a lot about a sweet ride. So I was like, oh, I love that idea about it. She has her sweet ride. So like there are little moments like that. But there's another line that Grover says in the underworld to Hades about.
That's all you're going to give it
Yeah.
to us.
Anyway, so there's little moments like that.
That's amazing. Okay, so Take the Weight is both Annabeth's song about carrying the weight of the world and Rob's song about
Like
needing
carrying-
to come up with a
Song.
new piece of music for this musical.
Yep.
Yeah, he literally
about
was
to
like,
launch.
Kristen, what do you think of this song? And we played it once, and he was like, okay, cool. And then, like, that was the end of it. Like,
Yeah.
I heard it once, and he was like, no, it's too folky. We can't do
It's
it.
too folky. It's too, yeah.
But also,
We
this
can
is
do
going to
grown
be
up.
released on an EP.
Right. So part of the thing that I love about the fans is that they're just hungry for more content and they love this character. And I was like, well, it's a pretty little rocker. I like or a folky tune. I like it a lot. So I wanted to release it as a single. So we're doing that as an EP. So I thought, oh well, what else could I put on this little thing? If I'm only going to do one song, I might as well do like 3 songs and make it like a full EP. So I was like, I want to celebrate Sarah Beth, who's one of my favorite singers in the whole world. And
rocks.
we worked on the show forever called Relativity, and then we just changed the name of it to 1111. And it's about a brother and a sister. And so I wanted to have this song from that show that's a real rocker called Marking that she sings
She
on.
blows it out.
Yeah.
You guys
Oh,
are
you
not even
guys.
freaking ready. I'm serious. It's so good.
Will we hear that at the Green Room 42 on
Yes.
April
you will.
3rd?
Yes, you will.
So,
So we're doing
going to
those
give
2
you one
songs, yeah.
exclusive performance
Yeah.
here today.
Yeah.
First time performing in front of a crowd?
We did it once at Green 40. Or no, at
54
54
Below.
Below, yeah, as a thing. But yeah, it'll be the first time.
Radio debut.
Radio
Radio.
debut for
Yeah.
sure. It's not done often, so I think this is the 2nd or 3rd time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
All right, great.
Think I know how Atlas felt when he got the cards he was dealt. It seems pretty lousy hand, and life is full of rotten deals. You got no clue just how it feels when everyone expects so much you can barely stand, and you wish that you were stronger, 'cause you know you're gonna fall, and you can't hold on much longer. You're gonna lose it all. Take the weight from my shoulders. Take the weight from my mind. From my mind, it's strange. You're making me uneasy. We're both a little broken, so maybe you could see me. It's weird, but a good weird. I know can't let go. It's like, how much can you take before you break? Take the weight from my shoulders. Take the weight from my mind. They say wait till you're older, but there's so many things I've yet to find. I can't take the weight, can't take the weight, can't take the weight, can't take the weight, no.
Yes! Oh my
State of
gosh.
realness.
So that's one of 27 cut musical moments from The Lightning Thief.
Correct.
I hope to someday have not just like an LP, but like a super long form multi-disc vinyl box set of all
Like,
of the
cut
cut
from
songs.
camp. Cut from camp.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love that.
Cut from camp.
Yeah,
I
I would
love
love that.
it.
Cut from camp. That's the album.
Hashtag cut from
Hashtag
camp.
Cut from camp.
Last picked.
So hear that
Last
song
picked.
and lots of other songs from The Lightning Thief, from
Oh, right.
Rob's other new project, which
Yeah,
is
we haven't
called
talked about
Experience Marianas, and that's a cult musical.
Yeah.
Not just, I mean, there are cult musicals, like Lightning Thief you might describe as a cult musical because
Yeah.
of the way that it's caught on, but Experience Marianas is actually about a cult.
Yeah.
Let's get into that a little bit.
So one of the things I was kind of like thinking about working on was group think. I was like so intrigued about kind of where we are in the world, and kind of what I can say as an artist, and what stories I want to, what scare me. And I think like in terms of that for Project Monster Songs, it was about toxic masculinity, and it's this graphic novel looking from a little boy as he sees the world as monsters and how he fits in. And monsters always intrigue me. So I also was thinking about kind of group think and how scary that is. So I had an opportunity to work with the students at Cap 21, Malloy College, and we developed it over 8 weeks. It was a brainchild of actually Sarah Beth and I when we went on this road trip I was like mixing the album. I was having a bit of a nervous breakdown because we didn't think Lightning Thief was going to have another life.
It's just Tuesday for Rob.
This was a Tuesday. They know me very well, that I'm a little high strung. And so we went to Colorado to have this like road trip together, and we were just talking about kind of like stories that scare us, that keep us up at night. And I wanted like a vehicle that she could like sing on too, because and we started talking about cults and how kind of, what is a cult? You know, is it your paleo diet? Is it your spin class?
My gym is definitely
you know
a
what I mean?
cult.
Oh, it's your Facebook group. It's, you know what I mean? It's you know, how we get inundated in information that just is secular, and that how do we break cycles? How do we get out of it? So we kind of created this world and like this whole like mythos of a cult.
Getting to invent a cult is pretty fun.
And but the weirdest things you would make up, you know, they have a
Have all
secret weird
happened in real
language, and
life.
all have happened in real life. And I actually
All
have
of
had
them.
former students that have told me that they were in cults. I've had teachers, I've had people that have been in it that actually were affected by our performance very much that we just had done at this workshop. So I'm really excited about the show for a lot of reasons. I think like it was really excited to write for like a cast of like 14 women, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Just like vocal harmonies and stuff like that. And also like texturally, I've been playing around with a lot of like synth sounds, a lot of like kind of Twin Peaks, the chromatics, like a lot of very keyboard heavy sounds, which
Twin
I don't
Peaks.
really wear. You know, Angelo Badalamenti, I love that score.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it's just like different kinds of soundscapes that I'd never played with, because I usually write these, you know, rockin' songs with electric guitar and stuff like that. So I was really excited about that, and a LGBT like love story that I was really excited about telling as well, and so I just was I was really excited about that prospect, and the songs are really cool. I think I'm really proud of them. I think it's some of the most fun songs I've written in a long time.
It's an original plot. Not
based on anything.
We
love
made
that.
it up ourselves.
Yeah.
More of that.
Stared into the void.
Stared into the void, as we like to say.
And is that going to be recorded at all?
So the goal, I think, in a perfect world is, shows have such a hard time finding their audience. And I think like one of the things that we've learned, like even since like the 70s with like Jesus Christ Superstar and stuff, is that a concept album can be a way of finding a whole audience to see a show and then get it up on its feet. So in a perfect world, I think
That'd be more chill cast
that'd be
album.
more chill cast album. Look at that. So I think like in a perfect world, that's what I'd like to do, is to create like kind of a narrative through the album and make like 8 to 10 songs that are really feel like a kick-ass rock out of this like cool album, and then hopefully that will lead to more, to a production or other things with it.
So this brings us perfectly into our next segment, for which I also have a sound effect. This is the great Mandy Gonzalez singing
Tweets and sass.
Tweets and Sass.
Oh my God, what?
Is my segment on social media.
Oh my
and this
God.
is how we can keep in touch with you guys and find out about things like when your next concerts are, when your next productions are, what cities you're coming to with the Lightning Thief tour, or with, Experience Mariana's, when the EP, which is going to be out at the end of April, has an exact pre-release date
Right.
and an exact
Working
release
on that.
date. So, Rob, you have made it easy for us by having the same handle on both Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Thank
make-
you for that.
You're welcome.
It is not Rob Rokicki, which I wish it was.
I know.
But it is.
Consider it.
R Rokicks. So R and then Rokicks. And you'll always know that it's Rokicki because there's a kick in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
There you go.
That's your tagline.
There's a kick in the middle.
There's always a kick in the middle.
There's always a kick in the middle.
Did people say, like, I'm going to give you a kick in the middle of your face?
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Just today, and I'm
Wow.
sorry. You
Yeah,
will.
I wasn't saying that. I was just wondering if other people say
I'm
that.
just saying other people have said that. No, but that's it.
That's
Yeah, good.
original.
I'm glad nobody said that, because
Good.
if they did say that, I would have to have words with them. And Kristin,
Yes.
you have different handles on Twitter and Instagram, but you are represented on both.
Yes. My Instagram handle was first, which is why it's different. And I was like, let's just change it for Twitter. But my Instagram is at Rob. Everyone's like, what is this?
We're gonna need the backstory.
It's pronounced Chitty Balone, not baloney, as some people like to say. It's Chitty Balone, and it's CHITTY_BALONE. That's my Insta, and you can find me on Twitter at K_stoked, STOKED.
What's the backstory on Shitty Balone?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can tell the full backstory, but I do, it's a name it was like a fun name I had in college. It's like the alter ego, she's like my alter ego. She likes to have fun. And I go to Burning Man, and it's my burner name.
She was doing it before it was cool.
I was doing it before it was cool, you
before
guys.
it was-
So, and it's just
Alter
like,
ego.
it's just fun to say. Chitty balone. That's what my friends call me. And so
I'm using that as a sound effect. I'm going to
There
cut
you
that in.
go.
I don't know what
Amazing.
I'm going to use it
Shitty
for.
Balone.
you'll
but-
find a way. It's that weird thing that you're like, what is this miscellaneous?
Oh, I need to
It's
make an
Chitty
album. It's
Balone.
going to be like the life and times of Chitty Balone.
Oh my God, I'm ready
Okay.
for it.
She sounds like someone who could have a cult.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
It sounds
she's
like a
in
detective agency, maybe, too.
it. Or Chitty Balone. See, it's like she can do whatever
She's
she
a
wants.
private eye.
Chitty Balone, yeah.
Private eye at Burning
Chitty
Man.
Balone here, and I'm here to solve all your weird ass crimes.
And then Sarah Beth.
All right, Insta is going to be at It's Me SBP, ITSME SBP, and I believe my Twitter handle is just SB Pfeifer.
That's right.
My name.
And
Yeah.
Pfeifer is PFEIFER.
Yes.
You know the amount of times I've spelled that wrong and thief wrong?
Yeah.
I keep spelling thief wrong,
E's
too.
and I's are hard.
I know.
Yeah.
Man, adulting.
Right?
I know. A lot of
I
people spell
before
lightning
E.
wrong too. It's
What?
Except after C.
lightning.
Oh, they put an E in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, got
None
it.
of that.
I want to go back to this EP for a second,
Yeah.
because in addition to just being a great resource for like the people who are out there clamoring for more Lightning Thief content and more Rob Kick-Ass content.
Yes, hashtags.
It's also benefiting a really incredible organization. Some of the proceeds are going to go to She's the First.
Well, one of the things I was trying to do is celebrate this character of Annabeth. I'm like, what would Annabeth want me to do with it? So, so half the proceeds are going to go to this organization called She's the First. It fights gender inequality through education, and they support girls who will be like the first in their families to go to high school, and it does it all over the world, which I thought was really cool. So it's going to be one other amazing singer is on this we haven't even talked about, Morgan Siobhan Green, who's in the cast of Be More Chill.
Yeah.
And she covers Good Kid, this like beautiful acoustic version of Good Kid. So that's really special. Oh, and my niece designed the cover art, and it's going to be called Smart
Nice.
Girls EP. And
Rob Rokicki is such a feminist, you guys.
Oh,
How
yeah.
old is your niece?
She's like 16 now. 16, I think.
60?
She lives 16.
60.
I
She lives in
was
Germany.
really picturing like a little girl.
No.
Like, you know, and you're like, she's like 6. I thought you were
No.
going to say,
I think
because
she's
that
like
would be
50
kind
or
of
16.
amazing.
No, she's got to be at least 16. I don't know. I'm bad at this because this is my wife's niece, so she's still my niece.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
But
no
she
other
lives in
word for
Germany. They're lovely, lovely people.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. I'm like
Thanks.
excited. I'm excited about all the things that you're doing. And one of the things that I love about you and about Joe Iconis and the fact that like all the crossovers between Be More Chill. I remember the week before Be More Chill opened, we saw each other and you were like literally every person I've ever collaborated with and everyone I love is opening this show next week. And I see you doing the same thing with Lightning Thief, keeping people like Kristin on for the entire 6-year process and continuing to work with the same artists, bringing in these Cap 21 artists, these students that you've worked with and fallen in love with, bringing them back to do the concert, and like the amount of support from this generation of new musical theater writers, I think really led by you and Joe Iconis, makes my heart so happy. It's like, I think that one of the things that people wait for when they're dreaming of becoming an artist is like they want to wait until the circumstances are perfect instead of just making something now with the resources and the people at their disposal now.
Yeah.
And you guys are living proof of the fact that if you do that, you can. It's not just necessarily practice. It is practice for when your circumstances are sort of quote unquote more ideal, but it's also like you can actually get there with the people you made it with in your proverbial basement just for fun.
Yeah, it's like a rising tide. It does. Lifts all boats, as they say. But you believe in people, and when they deliver for you, you don't forget that.
So we are actually just about out of time. I can't believe how fast
I
it
know,
went.
that went really
Really
fast.
fast.
Yeah, that's fun.
We are going to remind everybody that they can go to lightningthiefmusical.com to check out all of the dates for the tour, which is continuing. And you just got all the social media. So make sure you follow Rob and Kristin and Sarah Beth. For me, you can listen and subscribe at dnrstudios.com/Laura to get every episode a week early than the free versions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure you rate and review. And please share with your friends. I'm building this thing from scratch by hand, and those subscriptions, which again is less than the cost of a venti caramel macchiato latte per month, is what keeps this thing on the air and happening. I'm inventing something that I hope is brand new and really special for the industry. So please continue to be a part of it. You can also check out my interview archive on lauraheywoodmedia.com and follow me on social at BroadwayGirlNYC. I'm going to take you out with a little bit of Good Kid by Rob Rokicki.
Yeah.
This has been Laura Heywood Interviews.
6 schools in 6 years, been kicked out of every place. Everything I ever do is wrong, never find where I belong. Everybody on my case. The same old story, the same old song. Don't act up, don't act out, be strong. I keep my head down, I keep my chin up, but it ends up all the same. With pack your bags, Percy, you're always to blame. I never try to do anything, I never mean to hurt anyone. I try to be a good kid, a good kid, a good son. But no one ever will take my side. All I ever do is take the fall. I swear that I'm a good kid. Guess I'm good for nothing at all. Gabe was a world-class jerk. Dad was never there. The only family that really mattered. Well, she vanished into the air. And now I finally find a haven, someplace safe where I can stay till it's back your bags, Percy. Now go away. I never try to do anything. I never mean to hurt anyone. I swear that I'm a good kid. Yeah, Percy, that's a good one. But no one ever will take my side. All I ever do is take the fall. I swear that I'm a good kid. Guess I'm good for nothing at all. The school's in 6 years. Every battle, every day. No one ever tells me that they're proud. No one asks me, Percy, how do you like to come around and stay? All you get are bad grades and a bum rap and a bad rep and a good smack and no friends and no hope and no mom. She's taken away. I swear I never stole anything. I never meant to hurt anyone. I swear that I'm a good kid. Good kid who's had a bad run. And all I need is one last chance to prove I'm good enough for someone.